There's nothing anyway.
Okay, so to cover that again, new clients, past clients, everybody in your sphere of influence, and everybody you should meet should be in what?
Moxi.
Your sphere of influence, whatever you use. I prefer Moxi, but use whatever. So, let me share my screen. Where am I seeing it? Right there.
Are you gonna record this?
Already recording.
Hey.
Here. Ooh, Brenda's here. Good morning, Brenda. So, I think all of your contacts should be in Moxi. But that's my thought. You guys are independent contractors. I want you to be in this, have some fashion of CRM, some fashion of way to keep track of all of your clients. Right? Okay. Who in here has absolutely nothing in Moxi?
Absolutely nothing.
No, you use the CMA all the time.
I use it all the time. I use it all the time, but I don't use it as my CRM. However, if you don't have one, it is phenomenal. And
It has a lot of pluses and it's getting better all the time. So we're going to start out with going to engage, and keep in mind that mine has, access to everybody. Do.
Tell them to be patient. Moxi is slow.
It's moving a lot of data. So when you open up Engage, this is what you would see, except your name here, unless you want to use mine, which I could make happen. And I think I want to start with people that I sold houses to probably around 2016, 2017. Now, you can go back farther. But when you do, what I'm about to show you gets a lot harder. So I like simple, okay? So I'm going to go to my people. And I want to find folks that I've sold a house to or I helped sell a house.
Thank you.
Because a lot of people in here, are, for me, are recruits that I've been looking at, right? And you may have your plumber and you may have your handyman and so on. So you can filter to find who you want to use. They have improved this filter so much, I can't even believe how much better it is. So if I want to go into groups, I can pull up agents, builders, and the groups that I have in my my Office 365. I can go down to clients. Do I want new, unassigned buyers and sellers and so on? But here's something that they just improved I didn't know. Contact info. What if you want to look up somebody's address? I can now apply this, type the address in there and find out who lives there. I can type in phone numbers. And if I want to look up everybody who doesn't have a phone number, I would click phone number and exclude. And now it's going to pull up the 143 people I don't have phone numbers for. The bottom line is figure out how to filter to people that were past clients. That's what I would suggest. Fortunately, I have a past client right here at the top. Her name's Tanya Lewis. You guys know Tanya from Security First? Yep. So I'm going to click on Tanya. And I'm going to see that her address is 8912 Shadow Ridge. What if you don't know Tanya's address?
441.
How many people of you haven't put it in your CRM? How many people don't have addresses in here? I know lots of you. I get it. Brenda didn't raise her hand. But nonetheless, if the address is in there, simple. If the address isn't in there, I'm going to just show you what I would do if I were trying to build a database of everybody who bought a house since 2017 through me. Make sense? Questions? if you go to the MLS and click on search, right over here is a specialty search called inventory. When you click on inventory, you are going to be automatically taken to a page that is your own listings. If I get to choose everybody in the company's listing, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to choose Brenda, just so, I'm picking on you, Brenda. Is that
Cool.
okay?
Yeah,
Just so I can show you something that's a little bit more interactive.
I don't have the time, everything I have is right now.
Yeah, but we're not looking at your act.
Okay, I was gonna say, I got 3 comments.
So I pick a Brenda, you guys will not have to do that. And there's one little thing down here that if you're not careful will mess you up. Was it a house you list, a house you sold, or listed and sold? You can pull up all your past listings if you want to, or you can pull up all your buyer side only.
It says or sold though.
Right, so.
It says listed, sold, or
listed
sold.
or sold.
I'm gonna bring them all up.
Okay.
So whether I was on the buying side
Gotcha.
or the selling side.
Or sold is your buyers.
But there may be a time that you want to call this buyer side because they're moved into that house now. You may want that address, right? So there's ways you can filter this. The only thing I don't like about this search is I have to get rid of all these statuses because I don't want Brenda's actives or pendings. I want her solds. And I put in all sold. I wish I could save this search. This is a specialty search that you can't save things on. So that much you have to do all the time. And then down here is a closing date. Well, maybe I want to go back to 2017 and only pull up 2017. So I click on that. I click on year 17, the 1st. I click on that again. I leave it at 17, but I want to go down to December 31st. Everybody got that?
You did it to the closing date beginning both times.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. My error. Forgive me. Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, you did that. I just did wrong.
See, everybody makes mistakes, right?
Did I just see that? Can you not put it through like today, 2024?
I could.
Okay.
I'm pulling up a year to just make the list more manageable.
Gotcha.
Okay. So if I'm Brenda, and I know I sold a bunch of houses, but I have not attached addresses to names. I'm guessing every one of you has a name saved in the phone, that you can pull up the name, all kinds of things. I would pull up this list, search. She sold 35 houses in 17. I'd probably print this out. And by printing it out, then I'm gonna have a little space that I can write the name off to the side. Make sense? Okay. Attach phone numbers to names because we want to put those in your database ultimately. But let's say we're doing these one at a time and I don't want to do it. What I've just shown you now is how to look up a year of all the houses you did, and you can go back year by year, see how you're doing, what your totals, what your averages, and all sorts of things because of the information up here. Everybody knows how to look up their own listings and solds in a particular time frame, correct?
Correct.
And Cheryl's right. You could go to 16 and print the whole thing out and then go down. But you could get overwhelmed by that too.
Yeah.
So it gives you a way to do both ways. So let's go back to my Moxi and Gage. And I know that Tanya lives at 8912 Shadow Ridge because I put it in there. You all know how to look up an address over here, right? Okay. 8912 Shadow. And let's see what pulls up. There is one listing. All I'm doing this entire search for is one reason. I want the MLS number.
Why?
I'm going to show you. And that's a perfect question. I am going to tell you. If I had this MLS number, then I can come over to Moxi Engage and I can say, well, I know her address. I've looked up the MLS number. I want to make a presentation for her. I click here. Now on the presentation, it's going to say create presentation. I'm going to name it Lewis. You can name it whatever you want. Am I doing an annual property review? A buyer tour, seller? I'm going to stay with the annual property review. And all I do is push create. Now it's taking the information for Tanya, moving it over into presentation.
Is this new?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, much easier.
And so it's created it and I want to view it. Now, if I'm doing a presentation for Tanya to show her house approximate worth, this is very much an ABM and you have to explain that. It's going to bring it over here for me and it's created it. I've got so many up here, that's why hers, normally it would just go right to the presentation. It's got her name in there and I'm going to put that MLS number right there, which was 526296. 526296 and copy. So now it's going back to the MLS and pull all the information that's available. How many square foot, how many bedrooms, is the basement finished, and so on. And apparently this one had no pictures, or I'd be able to browse all the MLS pictures and choose one to put in it.
It had one. It had one at least.
Okay, it didn't tell me that I'm screwing things up or I've done something wrong, but normally it would pull a picture over here.
I have found that if it's too old, if the listing is too old, it won't pull the picture.
A good point.
Okay.
That,
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah.
What is it before 2000?
it's been hit or miss, because it used to be if it started with anything lower than a 5, I couldn't find it. Now I'm finding things all the way back with 2s,
Oh,
but
wow.
they don't,
Transfer.
Oh, show
Pull the
pictures and
picture.
such.
right.
They started out the first year they put this in, it went back to 2016 mid-year. But what it does do is it brings over all the schools, the subject property information, the feature codes, and also the remarks. Now, if I'm sending this to a client, I don't necessarily want them to see the remarks that somebody else did, 5 years ago. So I'm going to erase those. I just highlight them and delete. Now they aren't in there. One thing you will notice, and this will make a matter different in a minute, you'll see the prices down here. That's what happened back then. We don't really care if they know back then. What we want to do is update to what it's doing now, and we're going to in a minute. And then I push continue. You want to save this address. So it will update the address back in Engage for you if you've entered a new address. Do you see what I'm saying?
Can you repeat that again?
If I put a new address in here and it's different from the address that it was Engage, they're going to change it in Engage.
So say, for instance, if you didn't have the word street on it, but the MLS had street, it's gonna change it to street.
Right. But you can skip this step, or you can say, go ahead and update it. I'm just going to skip it for now. And it comes over here and it is now saying, here's the subject property. These are the properties around it that we think would be good to use for your CMA. Now, do I agree with all of them? Absolutely not. But I'm not going to spend tons of time eliminating things line item by line item by line item, because this is, I want to send you something, I want to see what you look like, you'll kind of get a feel for what your neighborhood's like. So when I highlight them, you'll see that it shows them on the map. And here's my subject property. So I like that one because it's close. I like that one because it's close. That one, let's see what the price, $541. I'm probably not going to use that. I'll use that one. And you can pick off 3, 4, however many that you choose to use. And it will pull up quite a few, but it's always within this zone, within a parameter of what an AVM would pull up. That's all it is, okay? It is not a precise CMA. This is a conversation starter. When I pick my properties by checking them off here, I go to continue.
Was that all categories, expired, active, sold?
And the last 6 months. So now it says, here's my subject property, which unfortunately I didn't get a picture on, and here's the other property. I'm not going to do anything here because all I want to do is get a conversation fee sent to my client. So I'm going to go, okay, that's fine, and I continue. Now, you'll notice that it imprints what this house sold for last time. But it also figures out what this house would probably be worth based on square footage alone. We never base it on square footage alone, do we? But I can see what the averages are, so I'm going to create a range. You see that button I pushed, create a range. I'm going to go minimum of, let's say, 675, 1, 2, 3. And then I've got to put a price over here, or I can put a percentage in. 3%, calculate. That didn't do it right.
You have to change the maximum dollar amount too.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna go up to 750 because that's what it said it would do on square footage. Now you can make that range whatever you want it to be. But you see what I'm doing? I picked some houses. I found what the pure square footage price is. I'm creating a range to pique their interest. Because if their house sold for 280 and I can get 675 out of it now, that's worth knowing. If I look back on some of the properties I picked, I might say, oh, that's a completely different neighborhood. I wouldn't have picked that one. Do you understand what I'm doing there? And I apply. And I continue. And now, here are the pages that line up with, what did I call that? An annual review of a home. It's a very limited number of pages. Because we don't need to send them everything we do for a regular CMA, right? We don't need to tell them about our photography or advertising, text messages. We're just trying to give them some pure numbers. But I still don't like this presentation. So up at the top where it says presentation, if you click the arrow and you go to templates and you go to brokerage templates, this is really deep, but this is if you want to change it. Company seller pages, I created one called Seller Lead Gen. Now that's a lot of clicks to get there, and I'll put it on your crib sheet. But what Seller Lead Gen does is it shortens it. Instead of having 11 pages, I'm only sending 7. It's got a different cover page, and I put the Best of Wichita flyer at the very left. Now, I'm going to go ahead and apply them. Yes, replace it. And so now you see this is a different cover page. It's got the agent profile. Come on. It's got property summary and so on. You're following me. Anybody with questions so far? Now, I know how the Knopfert team works. They have team pages dedicated to what they do, which makes sense. You may want a page in here that talks more about, Cheryl may want, I'm this massive educator that I've been doing it for years and years. She could put that in there. Lance could put his own page in there. And if you want to add pages, you just click on add page and you can either create a new one or you can look at the library for all the other pages. Any questions with that? For me, if I was doing this quickly, I would either take the 11 pages they already have or change to the 7 pages, which means you have to click 3 or 4 times. but it's your call. Once I'm done, and literally, I'm done, I want to view what it looks like. And I want the web view. In my perception, not 80% of the time, you won't print things out. And for what we're doing here, this is all about email. So don't print it, don't look at the pages and so on. Your client gets a link that looks like that. And there's the cover page. And there's About You page. And if you don't like the About You that far up, you can move it. There is the picture and describing everything about the house. This gives them a map of the properties we're using, not properties we're not using. There's a house side by side. Home averages, so they'll know what the neighborhood is. Best of Wichita flyer. And that's it. So we're giving the client a little bit of information about what their house is. Now, I have obviously my guess on the prices was way off because I had $300,000 houses and 700. But you guys all know how to do CMAs already. I'm showing you how to make a presentation. Carol?
And it's a me thing. I don't trust the numbers or the selections as much. Is there a way for me to go to MLS, pick the ones I want to use?
Absolutely.
And enter it just by MLS?
Absolutely.
That's what, yeah.
And you put that in your crib sheets.
Yeah.
So if I were to close this now and go back to present.
Is there
Hey, Greg, this is Sandra. When I was working on this last year, what I did, because I agree with you, Cheryl, I don't trust this. So I went to the MLS and just did a grid around where I normally would if I was doing a CMA. I did 5 years older, newer, same levels. And then I also adjusted for like 18% smaller and lower or and larger square footage. And then I glanced at those houses, you know, quickly, but just made sure that, hey, these make, because a lot of times what Moxi, I love Moxi, but what they pick, I'm like, why in the hell would you pick that as a comparable?
That's my only complaint.
So let me go back to the search page for a moment so you might understand a little bit better. I just clicked off a bunch based on how close they were. If I were doing this for real to give to a client, I would compare the prices, the number of bedrooms, see if the square footage is good, see if they're close on the map. But if you don't trust it, if you come right to the top instead of using location, you can click MLS. And then you can enter your MLS numbers with a comma between them, and they'll pull those over here and put in the presentation for you.
That makes me.
Cheryl's happiness is like the top of my tree. So I want you to know you can do it both ways. Here's what I would suggest trying a time or two. Is this going to get you close enough to get a conversation?
Yeah.
Yes. If you want to test your own versus them 2 or 3 times and see how close or far off the numbers are, you might gain in confidence. You might not. But you can tell from what I just did, I was just picking out things that looked close. I didn't look at the prices and so on. I'm trying to make it so you can do it quick enough that this becomes rote. It becomes very easy. Lynn,
You said it goes back 6 months. Can you make it go back 1 year?
if you put your own MLS numbers in, you can go anywhere as far back as you want to.
But it automatically defaults it to 6
It
months ago.
does that at 6 months. I believe it's 6 months.
It is.
You can do some other filters up here if you want, but my thinking is I'm either doing an AVM or I'm doing a CMA. Which
Yeah.
do I want to do?
Yeah.
I want a conversation.
Greg, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
When it comes to filters and so forth, if I don't end up putting my own MLS numbers in, can I, you've got the map up there, can we search by school district?
I'm not
Just
sure.
curious.
I don't know. I guess you can change it to go back a year now that I think about it, or I see this. I don't see that it is filtering by school district. I do see that you can put a subdivision in by the name that the MLS has. So if I was doing Willow Bend only, and it was pulling up houses in Deer Lake, whatever it is, I could put Willow Bend in there and that would take out everything that it came up with that wasn't Willow Bend. But again, let me kind of, what I would be doing. I'm doing a quick CMA with a wide range of prices to start the conversation. The conversation may be, let me come and see how much your house is worth. It may be you're down, maybe it's time to downsize, but I get in front of somebody and I get to talk to them, right? Because lead gen is the most important job you have. You have to be good at what you do. You have to be honest and ethical. But if you don't have anybody to get in front of, none of that does you any good. You have most of you in this room, and a couple of you almost there, have a backlog of clients you've worked with for years. If you look at the MLS, what they do when NAR does their surveys, when you've completed a transaction with the client, they answer somewhere around 75% of them would do business with you again. But if you go over to the other one and say, how many use the realtor they used before, it's in the 20s. And that's because from when they liked you, you lost track of them. You should not lose track of them. You've got a warm relationship. You're not using that relationship, you're maintaining it. Keep that relationship going so that if and when they're ready to move again, you're the person they talk to. Does that all make sense? Yep. That's what I consider a real referral business. When I've taken the time to maintain a relationship. I'm not going to send stuff all day long that says, do you know anyone who's willing to buy or sell a house right now? That is berating to me. I want to keep that relationship going. Anyway, back up here. We are at pages, and I've shown you can choose different pages. And now we're going to send this to our client. When it comes up, it's already got her email address in it because that was over Engage. I can add a subject. It can be, this is what I called you about.
Greg,
Yes.
Dixie.
these are people you have in Moxie. What if we don't have people in Moxie or everyone's not in there and we want to send it to someone that's not in there? How do we do that?
Oh, that's easy.
Out of the Moxie.
Yep. But let's go down here. We're going to put in a greeting. We're going to say, hey, Tanya. Tony. Sorry. And then type in your message, which I'm not going to do up here because I'm fumble fingered. But your message may be, I just ran some quick numbers in your neighborhood. Know that this is not exact numbers. This is kind of a range you'll fit into. Or it surprised me that the house you bought 7 years ago is now moved up this month. It may surprise you too. You could write a message and say, just take a look at this and tell me how you like the presentation. I want to know if it's easy to read and you understand it or not. Let them evaluate it. You'll send a copy to yourself automatically, and then you send. That's it.
Another one that we've been doing with our past clients over 2 years old that has gotten tons of responses is the subject line being, you were so smart.
I love that. That's perfect.
The subject of the
investment.
email, you are so smart. And then in the body of the email, telling them, we just wanted to let you know how smart you were for buying the house you bought. Look at how much it's gone up over the last 2 years and the equity you've gained. Congratulations. I wish all my clients were as smart as you or whatever you say.
So let me say that I started out with, you ought to call them first and tell them it's coming. I think that's a good idea. What Brenda's doing is also working. I'm sending you an email on that. You've got to decide how you want to reach that individual, not just everybody in your SOI. Brenda probably could do that for her next door neighbor, Or she might call her next door neighbor first and say, hey, I loved the coffee we had the other day. It was great. We played cards. By the way, I'm sending you an email. Something along those lines. Okay. Dixie had a question, which I'm going to answer for you. So back to engage. If I've got somebody in my spreadsheet, or I go through all my old contracts, or the example I showed you where I'm finding all the houses I bought, I help people buy in the last year, and I write their name next to it. You got to do a little more research, try to see if you still got their email address, phone number. But then what you would do is come in here, go to people, add people. So I would put in here Dixie. Boy, I keep hitting that cap, don't I? BALL. I can give her a language. I can put her phone number in. I can put her husband's phone number in, or anybody else. I can put the primary email or add other emails as I want to go through. Put in her address. If I know this other stuff, go ahead and do it, like her husband's name is John. It's not. And then I can choose what they are. I don't have to choose what they are. I might put this as a past seller in there only because I can filter all my past sellers if I've marked these. I can filter all my past buyers if I've marked these, right?
Hey, Greg,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
Sandra. Would you scroll up there just a little bit to where it says dates? Where it says dates, do add date. And you can put in their house anniversary. And if you put the house anniversary in, then you can add it to your calendar. So it's going to pop up a reminder for you a week before that house anniversary. So you can call them, send them a personal card, and then it will send you, you'll get a thing. It'll come up on your calendar the day of too. So
The
I've been
calendar in Moxi. The calendar in Moxi.
It depends on what email you're using, but yes. Like-
well, it sends it to my personal calendar. I don't even know how it's even put in there, but I'm not that smart, but
Because you're using our company email, which is integrated fully with this, so it
Okay.
will send it to your
Okay.
calendar. You can also get it where it will send you a text a week before.
Nice.
At any rate, thank you, Sandra. And of course, because I've got, recruiting duties, I put recruit in there, but when I'm all done, I save it. And then we're back to the same thing, Dixie. I run down to presentations. Do I want to create one? Does that answer your question, Dixie?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, sir, geez. Okay, so the contest is I can get reports to show me who generates the most CMAs. Some of them may be for your listings, thank God. Some of them may be this. I'm going to look at the reports and see who's got the most, and you get $100 at Longhorn. And the real prize of this is not going to Longhorns for dinner. But the real prize is who can beat Sandra at this game.
bring it.
Hey, Greg,
Yes.
when we are adding people like you just were showing, so I have a client that has purchased multiple houses to use for rentals. So would I just put him in there for each property and then maybe just put the property address beside his name so I can see the difference?
If you were trying to do this process for multiple properties, it won't work very well unless they're all combined in a very close location. However, let me see
No,
what-
but I mean, if I just want to do a CMA like for each property
Uh-huh.
to kind of show him, because he's bought, just
Right.
wherever, he doesn't have a certain part of town.
Right.
So I just didn't know if I need to put each property under an individual person's name and maybe save the property address beside their name to show
if you
versus
want,
putting one name and like 5 properties.
that's one way you could do it. Let's see, email addresses, add addresses. They have home, work, or other, so you could add them all in here and keep a record of them all in here. And I wanted
Okay.
to,
I have a comment on that. Before we could do it on their name, you used to just have to do it in the present.
Right.
So she could just do it that way, to do them in the present instead of muddying up her
Right.
CRM with a bunch of names and addresses.
now, and good point, you can do it either way, whatever works for you. But here's a big point I want to make. If I've taken the time and trouble to look up their MLS number, I don't want to have to do that next year. I can take a personal profile and add a field. Well, what do I want it to be? I could add it under dates. Do they have other in relationship? Custom, I could add it under relationships. I would somewhere in this save the MLS number. So next year you've already got it in here. That makes sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what other questions do we have?
What is the price of tea in China?
More than it was last year.
Okay.
So Greg, on that, that new template that you, added, the lead gen one. So
Uh-huh.
I like it because it's really short. So does it have a page for an estimated value, or is that taken out? So it just sends the properties you picked.
I believe I left it in there. So let me show you a couple of things on that. Come on, open it up. Let's get into this one. Let me see which presentation I left up here. The listing averages best of Wichita, you know, it didn't, so I'll have to go back and add it. Thank you, Sandra. On the other hand, let me show you what else you can do. I can add a page, go to the library. I can go to, I believe it's this one, and find that page, but I will add it when I'm done. However, if you want to take any kind of page to add to yours, you can. But I will fix that shortly, okay? Sandra, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with that page. It's kind of cool that it gives you the average, you know, on the square footage and on the sale price, but it could be really skewed too. So
Yeah.
if you leave the page in there, then it's like, okay, where did the other thing I do, like I said, I kind of handpick my comps that I want to use on the MLS. I don't do a CMA, but I just kind of make sure that they're similar age, size, you know, like I normally would start at least. And then what I'll do when I'm in the MLS, on that particular subject property, I will click on the RPR button just to see what the RPR value is, just to kind of cross-reference. So I'm not sending something totally skewed, you know, at least it should be somewhere in the ballpark.
And that's an excellent point. If you pull up the RPR value and it's close to what you've done here, you're probably safe. I also wanted to tell you that while you can add pages, you can also take pages out. So let's say you don't like the side-by-side comparison. Click on the little X over here and it removes it.
It's one of my favorite teams.
If you don't like the listing averages, you click on that and remove it. So you're not stuck with just this. You can add or remove each time you do a new one. So I know Tulio has probably never put a person in this. But
Guaranteed.
he might get his little note card out and put in one person just to send it. Get his note card out, put in another person. You don't have to keep everybody you know in here. You can keep only the people that you want to work with this kind of program on. This is not an all or nothing. This is what works for you. Any questions?
This is a little bit outside of this.
Go ahead.
We still have the presentation where auto sends like a quarterly, presentation to previous customers about what the current market is doing.
Absolutely.
And would that be added to this particular contest, or does it have to be the same piece?
No, it has to be the CMA. The reason I want that is what you're talking about is automated and easy for people to overlook. If you're doing something very personal, then, and you let them know it's coming, the reaction you're gonna get is a lot better.
We can do that offline at another time.
Now, I'm gonna show you real quick. It's very easy.
And Greg, while you're showing that, what I've been doing when I've been doing a CMA, or I kind of, when I reach out to them, hey, letting you know we're doing a contest and you know how much I like to win, you know, so I'm going to be sending you this automated, this, as you know, an automate or estimated value. It's in the ballpark. And then I tell them I'm also adding you to a different campaign that's going to send you an email quarterly, just so you can see what's been happening in your neighborhood in the market. And I kind of do both at the same time.
The only thing I'll tell you what Lance and Sandra are both, if you want it automated, it's not quarterly, it's monthly. Okay, I can't fix that. There's nothing we can do. But it's fairly easy to set up. Let's say I had this knack for looking at a map and saying, I sold a house right there and I remember who it was. I don't know why.
We all do that.
Right.
That's my daughter. We'll drive down there. I sold that off.
Oh, that's how my wife got me into the business. I drive by, I know who lives there. Oh, I know who lives there. Oh, let's look at a new house, you know. So the thing that they're talking about is to add a subscription. Neighborhood news.
Under people?
I went to Tanya Lewis. I went down to subscriptions, clicked on it, and that brings up neighborhood news. In neighborhood news, you're going to add a subscription. Now you can add the zip code only, but we all know our zip codes are so big in our neighborhood, not smart. So I'm going to do a targeted search. And I'm going to do it simple. I'm not going to try to add how many bedrooms, how many baths, or anywhere else. But I'm going to say that Sandra lives, oh, let's say she lives up here in Bel Air. I'm going to zoom in on Bel Air. And she lives back here in this neighborhood. So I'm going to draw a circle right around here. To draw a circle, I click draw. I'm going to quick draw because I'm not going to make multiple circles. Then I hold down my mouse key, circle it, and then I click next. And that's going to be what Tanya's neighborhood news is going to consist of. I never have to touch it again.
And they will get this monthly
Monthly.
until I stop it.
Correct.
Or they unsubscribe. Right.
They can unsubscribe. They can change the area that they're in.
Oh, okay.
They can look at another area. So there's a lot of things they can do in there. But now I've got this, and Tanya is going to get this. Remember I showed you okay, if you looked at all your cells and you notice that you've got 10 cells in one area, you could set that same search up, circle an area, and add more people in here for just that. So you didn't have to draw it out every time. But if I click next, I can enter a message. And the message can be Tanya, just like you might want to know what's going on in your neighborhood every month. Give me a call if you have any questions. And then I click next. That's the default. Custom boundaries, single family home, multi-manufactured, and so on. And this is an example of what their neighborhood news looks like. And then down at the bottom, it's all about you. And this contact is back to you.
Does that automatically populate?
Yep.
Does it tell us what reports are sent? Like I would get an email saying we sent the neighborhood news to Tanya.
That shows up on your dashboard.
Yeah,
I
you
think, and I think you get an email like maybe weekly, and it says, you know,
Right.
sent these ones on your behalf.
Once a week, you get an email and it says, that was. Now, we've covered a lot in here. I don't want to confuse people. Let's go back to the automated CMA, RPR CMA, whatever you want to call it. Let's try to send some out. We need listings. We need to get in front of people. People that are selling their house are most likely going to buy a house. Right? Now, a year ago when I did this, Brenda and I had a discussion, and I think she's absolutely right. But we have the same issue now. Getting people to want to sell their house and then they say, where am I going to move? That's an issue. But you know what? It was an issue before we got in front of them. At least we get in front of them and say, if you're really interested in moving, let's start the looking process. Then we'll come back to list your house once we've got the looking process or talked about or whatever. You have all had to go through that conversation sometime in the last couple of years. It is hard to find a house, but that doesn't mean I don't want to get in front of it, right? I love Brenda going, yep, you're right, Greg. Good.
So right, right.
And of course, now it's easier, I think, and this is the thing that we're sharing with our clients, is it's easier to find and buy a house today than it was last year or 2 years ago. Yes, the inventory is still low, but there's still a little bit more inventory. And there's not quite as many buyers out there scrambling to find something. So interest rates have stabilized. Let's do it.
Interest rates went down again last week. I just talked to a lender this morning. They're down again.
So go out and get some listings for you, for me. Yes, Lane.
So last year when I did this, I got 3 listings from it. And a state.
No, wait a minute. You got more than 3 listings. You found out that somebody sold a house that you sold 2 years ago, only like 3 weeks before we started the
Yeah,
contest.
before we started the contest, well, as I was doing the contest, I found out that one of my houses that I had sold a couple years prior was listed at the time.
That hurts so bad.
Oh, I know, but it's my fault.
Right.
But for not keeping
Yeah.
up, so my goal is to not do that.
Okay, any questions?
Greg, I just wanted to say one thing.
Yes?
I made my own presentation last night and I've been trying to add a page to my presentation and all morning and it won't load. I don't know if anybody else has had that problem, but I can't get any page.
I have found that sometimes because they're moving a lot of information, it helps you log out and log back in.
Yeah, I've tried that and 2 different computers too, so I'm just hung up.
You see this little help right down here? And I clicked on it. I can ask them a question or I can chat with somebody live. I can't fix necessarily the page loading, but at least they can look in it here if you chat with somebody.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. Wow, we got quite a few people stayed on. Guys.
Hey,
Guys?
Greg,
Yes.
just since there's so many people in here, just a FYI, I was just looking through my junk mail folder in my email, and that's where my 1099 went to.
Oh.
So you guys might check that.
Thank you for that point, but I would point out that we sent them email and hard mail if we have your address. So you get them each way. Okay then.
And on that same subject, if for some reason you don't get an email, you don't get a card mail, contact me directly and I can give it to you.
So is everybody pumped and ready to go get listing?
Yeah.
Okay, go get listing. Yes, sir.
I have an MLS question. Can we go to Paragon dashboard?
I have to start sharing again, but it should be
The green.
the green, yeah, of course.
You guys better go get them, because I'm gonna.
Go Dixie, go.
What do you want
On
to
the
see?
hot sheet section. I was playing with that yesterday. Yeah, over there on the hot sheet.
what is hot list? Is that just anything that made a change? I couldn't figure out
Yes, it is anything that has had a change.
whether even add a picture.
Add a picture, change a square footage, add a
Cause I couldn't, a lot of them I couldn't figure out.
agent, pending,
Okay.
every single thing that has had some kind of.
If it's been sneezed on, it's
Yep.
there.
Okay.
wow.
And their description sucks. I
If
mean,
they
Yeah.
added it to an open house, if
Okay.
they changed the
That's
word in the
excellent.
comments, anything at all.
Thank you. I tried to figure it out and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I had
Thank
to
you,
call
Brenda.
and ask.
That's awesome. All
Well,
right.
I thought the blue question mark would help, but it just
It
says
doesn't.
anything that was added to the hot list. So what?
Yeah,
you know?
right,
Well,
Well,
good,
and
that-
you know, when changes, you have an option of adding to the hot list.
Okay, go get them, guys.
Thanks, boss.
I will pump you up.
Oh, Arnold.
Yeah, pump you up. Stop the
Almost done.
recording.
Sure.